Welcome to Tai Chi's podcast. And we are joined here today with Dane and myself, of course. And then our special guest, Suzy Q. How about you? So the International Woman of Mystery is what we've called this because we've just met and we have a lot of questions, and she has an amazing background. I can edify her a bit. She's a health and wellness expert, specializes in Army and law enforcement career, kind of getting into that field, helps people with their nutrition, helps people with diet, weight loss, fitness. There's a ton of stuff that you can go into there. But Suzy, why don't you give us a brief review of your business and what you do all day?
All right. So, briefly, using my military and my law enforcement background, as well as my husband's military and fire services background, we started a business called FitFlex, which is functional interval training with firefighter law enforcement exercises. That has now transformed into not just helping people prepare wanting to go into law enforcement, military, fire services career, helping them prepare physically, mentally, etc. But one thing that we found also helping them prepare socially and mentally and emotionally. But we also offer a product line through Success by Health that helps also with nutritional support and just helping them get their body healthier. And then that's also morphed into now just helping everyday people because everybody's looking for that aspect.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone needs more health and wellness. I can't advocate it enough.
So, Suzy, you in your business, you help the people who keep us all safe, or help the people who are looking to get into those kinds of careers, prepare for those careers, and you help them prepare mentally, physically, etc., in terms of health, wellness, fitness, and you also provide these services for civilians, for the general public, for people who are not just looking to enter into those kind of service careers, but people who just want to be fit and healthy in general.
Yes, basically helping them bring their life into balance.
Okay. And what really sparked you to get into the health and wellness?
So what sparked me was I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 20 years old. I was a soldier in the Army. I had returned from Desert Storm. The first Desert Storm apparently is how it's being referred to now. So I was 20 years old. I had a son that was 6 months old, and I heard the words, "You have cancer." And at the time, I was told that I had a 50-50 chance of surviving 5 years. And needless to say, I survived. And then I started having issues with kidney stones when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. And 2011, after going into law enforcement, I heard the words again, "You have cancer." And during this time, I'd always been healthy. I grew up on a farm in Western New York. Everything we ate was something that we either produced on the farm. We had the beef cows, dairy, all of that. So I basically lived an organic lifestyle. I was always in, really good physical health and all of that. And anyhow, fast forward, I started having more issues with kidney stones in 2015. And it just kept getting worse, getting worse. And I was also at a very high risk for breast cancer. I'm technically still at a very high risk for breast cancer because of the treatments that I received back in 1993. So there were a lot of things that compounded for me to really focus, not just on my nutritional aspect, but I realized that even though I might be at a good place financially, there were a lot of things going on that was basically out of balance in my entire life. And once I was able to learn to get a hold of what was causing the kidney stones, and then also after getting some genetic testing and things done, come to find out it was the environmental factors that I was exposed to when I was in Saudi Arabia, between the fires, the anthrax vaccine, and the things like that, that Those were the things, the environmental factors that actually were part of the cause of my original cancer and then has continued on. So that's where, once I put all of that together, I realized that no matter what I did in other aspects of my life, until I took care of that part of it, of figuring out what was going on, putting myself into balance, then I was never going to be fully healthy.
Yeah. Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, I've heard many stories of veterans who came back and were like, "No, during the service is when all of my problems started," and that's why so many of my friends got out and they had high levels of handicap, that disability rating when they get out. So yeah, that's gotta have been tough. So sorry. Thanks for serving, but sorry about your troubles in the process. Jeez.
I actually, I feel like I have to mention here, Andrew, to kind of tackle onto that. Regarding veterans' health issues generally, there is a program that just opened up in the last couple of months. People in the Tai Chi world may have heard about it from David Dorian Ross of Tai Chi Fit. It's called Tai Chi for Veterans, and basically what he has done, what David Dorian Ross has done is gotten a particular curriculum from the Tai Chi Fit program approved by the I guess by the Veterans Administration for teaching to veterans, and basically it's not approved in all states yet. It's only approved in certain states, and they're working on getting it approved in all states, where anybody who undergoes a certification program in teaching this particular style of Tai Chi can actually get paid by the VA to teach Tai Chi to veterans, and of course it's free to the veterans. So um, I just want to mention that as an example of something that's happening right now that addresses this issue, because it's a huge issue of veterans' physical and mental health. And of course, what we do, Tai Chi, is a great way to address it. And so anybody who teaches Tai Chi or would like to teach Tai Chi and get paid for it and also help contribute to a solution to this problem, look up David Dorian Ross in Tai Chi for Veterans, and that's something that you can do right now to get involved.
I had seen something, I don't remember if it was in the American Legion magazine, or it might have even been in my VA newsletter that I get, that they are focusing more on the Tai Chi aspect, as well as even incorporating yoga and the meditation and things like that. So they are doing more things now. But one of the things that I found that continues to be lacking is, even in the military, even in law enforcement, there's a lot of people that are, physically healthy on the outside. They're strong, and, they practice meditation and things like that. But one of the things that I found, especially volunteering with the American Cancer Society for so long in my own research, is that so many of us are affected by our environmental factors, and we have yet to figure out how to combat that.
Mm.
And that's one of the things that I have found with some of the products that we offer, because Ganoderma is the baseline, and it's the reishi mushroom. Anybody can go in and research it on PubMed.gov. Even the Discovery Channel and Livestrong did documentaries on it. And that's the basis of what is infused into all of our products. And through more studies and talking to more doctors that have studied Ganoderma for years, we've come to find out that Ganoderma actually, if taken ahead of time, can help prevent, basically help protect somebody's system before they go into those environmental areas. But the one thing that I found, I'm actually doing more of a detox with my blood using these products, because it's actually helping remove the heavy metals from my system. And when you look at what we're exposed to on a daily basis, between the radiation, even just microwaves, but the technology that we wear and the things like that, we're exposed to radiation on a daily basis, and we have nothing to protect ourselves. And so we have some of those products that help protect, but also help take in, with the use of working with a naturopath or something like that can actually help clean your blood. And
Mm.
that's what I'm working on now. And that's where I'm starting to notice a huge difference. And I tell people all the time, I now feel like I'm almost 50, but I feel like I did before, when I was 20, before I was diagnosed with cancer. So to me, that's huge because now I have energy. I'm waking up, and even with no thyroid and all of that, I wake up and I'm like, okay, let's go.
Oh, wow. Oh, you
I can't
mentioned. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dean.
I can't believe it, Suzy. You don't look a day over 45.
Well,
Well,
you
thank
just
you.
mentioned the thyroid. My mother had her thyroid removed as well, so that's a tough thing. The rest of your life you're on these hormone pills, and that's just it affects you every single day and screws with her all the time. So that's
Yeah.
a tough thing to live with as well. So you have all these chronic issues and these things you have to constantly deal with. So what kind of habits have you developed to really support yourself and keep your health up?
So like I said, I've always been active. I've always been into sports and things like that. So I'd played soccer and softball and all of that when I was younger and continued on when I was in the military. So initially, when I went into law enforcement, of course, when everybody gets out of the army, they're like, I'm never running again. I'm never running again.
Pete,
And
go.
and the doctors had actually told me the treatment that I received in my lung area that I'd probably never be able to run more than from home to first base without having issues. So that was something I started working on and overcoming on my own. And there's still times that I struggle with my breathing because of my scar tissue in my lungs, but I overcame that and wound up going through the police academy when I was 33. And then when I was diagnosed with, I think it was about 2009, I started struggling. I had been running, working out up through 2007, 2008. And then in 2009, I really started having issues with just breathing. I was doing CrossFit, and every time I would lift my head back, I felt like my oxygen supply was getting cut off. Well, come to find out, I had tumors from my thyroid that were actually crushing my windpipe. And so I went a couple more years undiagnosed with thyroid cancer. And so in 2011, I had my thyroid removed, which then helped my breathing process. But during that time, I had started running again. And after I had my treatment in 2011, I had to be in isolation for about 3 weeks because of the radiation treatment that I had received. And basically, I couldn't be around anybody. I couldn't sweat around anyone. It was crazy. So we lived out in a very rural area, and I said, can I at least go out and run if nobody is around me? And they said, yes, absolutely. So I started running because I just had to get out of my own head, and that led to just getting back into it and rebuilding where I was at. But it helped me mentally. So since then, I've run several half marathons. I completed a full marathon in Hawaii in 2016. I've done some triathlons. I actually hiked part of the John Muir Trail in California in 2016, but it was the end of 2016, beginning of 2017 that my kidney stones really affected me to the point that my potassium had dropped really low, and I was on antibiotics for almost 6 months straight, trying to figure out what was going on. These crazy, you can't eat this, you can't drink this, you can't do this, you can't do this, and then it was November 1st of 2017 when my kidney specialists threw basically what I felt like the last nail into my coffin and said, not only do you have to live with the kidney stones and the calcifications, and at that point I looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man because of the inflammation, but then he also told me I had to stop drinking coffee. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And he'd already told me I had to stop drinking tea and everything else. So it kind of was just this huge thing that came down on top of me at one time. And then it was about 3 weeks later that I heard about the healthier coffee, the Ganoderma stuff, and things like that, and started making a difference in my life. And then I started noticing even more of a difference of the mental aspect and the emotional aspect of it, that that was when I really had that shift in my life, because I went through a really dark period for about 3 weeks after being told, because now I was being faced with, I couldn't wear my duty belt. I couldn't even bend over and tie my shoes. I was wearing flip flops all the time because I was just so inflamed. And I had to stop working out because my potassium was so dangerously low and couldn't maintain it. And so mentally and emotionally, I was a mess on the inside, but also the physical aspect of it and stuff. And so I went through a really, really dark period for about 3 weeks of just feeling like, where do I go now? At least when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had an avenue to go down. There was that hope of, okay, well, let's try this, try this. And now I'm being told, well, there's nothing we can do. You have to live with it. And I thought, are you kidding me? I have to live like this the rest of my life, to where my husband can't even hug me without me wincing in pain. So that was one of those definitely defining moments in my life. And then, like I said, when I heard, and then when I started trying just switching the coffee, I started noticing a difference within about 3 weeks. And I was like, I need to continue exploring this. And so that was kind of where I had that shift mentally, physically. And I tell people all the time that was kind of my lighthouse moment. My beacon of hope was the products coming into my life.
Wow. Yeah, I try to tell everyone the food and drink is your first medicine. We're constantly eating that stuff, and it's like you got to think about what you're putting in your body. Just whole foods, clean foods, that's much more important than like, okay, I'm going to eat pizza and burgers and then I'm going to take these pills that'll help me be healthy. It's like, no, dude, the first one, then worry about the pill stuff later. Good. I'm glad you figured that out.
Suzy, I'm curious, what did you do in your previous careers, and how did that, or did that have a bearing on your transition into the health and wellness field?
So when I was in the military, I basically did communications, and I ended up having to get out of the military. Well, I had the choice of either leaving the military or staying in and being non-deployable when I was diagnosed with cancer. And at that point, I thought, you know what, I have a 6-month-old son. I don't want to give my life to the military. I want to spend whatever time I have with my son. So I chose to get out. And then it's funny because I went from the military then to going to cosmetology school, and I wound up doing hair and makeup and stuff for almost 10 years. And then that was when I decided to move to Arizona. And once I moved there, it was random. I saw an article in a paper about the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office was hiring for dispatchers, 911 emergency operators. And I said, oh, I was in communications. I can do that. So I applied, I got hired, and I did that for about 3.5 years when I decided to go through the deputy academy. By then, my kids were a little bit older. We sat down, we talked about it, and I just felt like I could do more on the other side of the radio. And so I went through the academy and became a deputy, and I did that for years. And then I was a detective negotiator. I taught stress management to new recruits and things like that. And that was when I started teaching stress management, and then also tied in with the negotiator of when you start talking to people that are in that extreme crisis moment, and you start hearing the things that led up to it. And the crazy thing is, the almost number one thing that always led to that moment had something to do with finances. And that was when I started really looking more into how finances affect people individually, marriages, relationships, and even further on when we saw the stock market crash and all of that, and all these people that were killing themselves. And I realized how that one thing being out of balance could really affect everybody. So, but also tying in the stress management and the different factors. And I told people, you can eat right, you can exercise, and you can take care of yourself that way. But if your finances aren't in order, then you're always going to have that there. And so just tying all of that in together, realizing that you do need all of those pillars to put yourself in that perfect balance of health.
Mm.
And so that's kind of what continued leading that transformation was, the different things that I learned along the way as I was teaching, things I was, learning myself. And then, of course, when you get hit with a second cancer diagnosis and you wonder, am I going to be able to pay my mortgage this month, or am I going to put food on the table? And I mean, there were some times that we struggled, that even with me being, full-time deputy, my husband being a full-time firefighter, that there were times that we struggled with, do we even have enough money to put gas in the car to get to and from work because of all the medical bills? And, even though we had dual insurance, it was the other pays that were coming. I had one pill that was $66,000 for one pill. And it literally sucks the life out of you. And people don't understand that. So also trying to help people in that aspect of, you might be able to, you might be okay right now, you're not necessarily living paycheck to paycheck, but as soon as you get a diagnosis of something like that, or that's chronic, then that really starts eating into your paycheck and also into your savings. And then that starts adding into, affecting you mentally, emotionally, and then your relationships and stuff. So it's just one of those vicious cycles that once it starts, it just continues going.
Man, man, you got really lucky because there's so many families that, they encounter something like a medical emergency and they get wiped out, bankrupt, lose their house. Happens over and over, only in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
crazy.
suspect it happens other places as well.
Yeah, it happens a lot here. It's the number one reason for bankruptcy is medical issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was the transition point when you began to pursue a career in health and wellness? What exactly sparked that?
So it was November of 2017. And then when I got involved with, when I heard about Success by Health, started researching Ganoderma, the products and all of that, and started realizing that I could bring that line into what I was already doing and how it could help support other people on the different journeys they were on, regardless. And because I started noticing such a difference in myself physically, and then I started having the transition emotionally and mentally, and then it got to the point, even my oncologist asked me, what are you doing differently? And and then people around me are like, okay, what are you doing, because you're just glowing and I want what you have. And I started realizing that I could help people on a bigger basis with what I was doing as an independent affiliate with Success by Health than what I could do just as a deputy. Because, as a deputy, I had the policies and politics and all of that that was binding me. And I've always been involved in my community in different aspects, but I never felt like I could really do what I wanted to do with helping people out. And it wasn't more of giving them a handout, it was more of giving them a hand up. And so I started realizing that, there's a lot of people out there that even a extra $200-300 a month can literally help save them from filing bankruptcy in whatever manner. And so between what I was doing with my health and then realizing that it could also help other people, because I can literally go and set up someplace and sell coffee and cocoa and chai tea on a weekend and make a couple $100. And I thought, well, if I can do this, anybody can do this. And you see people in the lemonade stands and car washes and stuff. But I thought, what if they could do this just even a couple hours a week? They could involve their kids and things like that. And it's coffee, right? Everybody drinks coffee or tea. But then also having the other nutraceuticals in there. So that's where I started realizing that if I were to do that full time and be able to talk to more people, help more people, then I felt like that was furthering my purpose personally. and wasn't so much about me at that point. It was, how can I help other people? And then as we expanded, now we're in 48 different countries, and we've got a lot of other things that are, in the works just with that aspect, but also how it's been able to continue tying in with me being able to work with people one on one and actually offer them hope. Whereas before I could talk about hope, but I didn't really have hope to offer people. Now I have that, depending on what they're looking for from that aspect, whether it's the health, the physical aspect, the mental, emotional, the financial, etc. I basically have the vehicle for that now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
that was when I started the transition, and then left law enforcement three years before retiring.
well, well, that's really, really cool because, yeah, I've noticed every single time I meet someone who gets into that, I want to be an independent business person, representing some kind of product that's only direct sale. You know, it's a great thing in many ways because you find your path. You found this, like, oh, this is the thing that helped me, and you get inspired, and you're like, I want to share this with people, and you go out and you advocate, and you try to yell and tell people how good it is and share it with them, but they still don't trust you. It
Right.
takes so much to get someone to, like, all right, I'll try it once. Then, oh, great, it's so wonderful. Yeah, it's funny how
Yeah.
that happens.
But it's like, if you tell them, hey, these M&Ms over here that they just came out with are great, man. They go and, it's like swarm it. And you say, hey, I have something that, might help you. And it's coffee. And all of a sudden they become the biggest Google researchers out there. And it's like,
I'll have to read about
okay. But I mean, it's one of those, it's something I have to offer, versus, I mean, even when I was in law enforcement, I could tell people, okay, you can't do that. That's against the law. And they're like, well, no, it's not. My neighbor's brother's Jim Bob told me XYZ. And I'm like, oh, that's right, because they're a jailhouse lawyer. So they
yeah.
know exactly what they're talking about.
All right. Well, I do have a lot of questions about your experience in law enforcement. You said you were doing it in Arizona. What city?
Yes. I was in the Phoenix area with Maricopa County Sheriff's Office.
All right. Do you have any crazy story you like to share? That you say, oh, this is the one that really put me over the top.
Um, there were a lot of different crazy stories.
Oh,
So
okay.
to pinpoint one, I can't really pinpoint just one per se.
Hmm.
And because we worked in such a big metro area, and we had a lot of the some of the towns and cities that were contract cities, but we also covered a lot of rural areas. It's you really didn't know what you were ever going to find.
All right. All
Especially rolling through the desert, and all of a sudden you're like, what did I just stumble upon? um, so I wouldn't say there's any one in particular, especially after 17 years in law enforcement. It just kind of is a lot.
right. That's a long time. Well, you were a negotiator, so why don't you give us some tips on how to talk to people, how to make them believe you?
So the biggest things that I've learned, especially with negotiating, is, and it's funny because it's transferred into relationships with, whether it's spouses or, parents, etc., is the one thing that I've found, and I've seen it reiterated so many times, people most of the time listen to reply versus listening to understand. And that has translated into what I do now, because I focus more on listening to what people are saying, whether it's with their body language, with what they're not saying. And it helps me understand more of how I can help them versus they start telling me something and then I just wait to reply.
Hmm.
And if you listen to a lot of conversations, that's what you hear. And of course, you see it on social media all the time. Somebody says something and there's bam. So it's more of, okay, where are they coming from? What is the basis of this? And really listening to understand it. And that honestly has been one thing that's helped my husband and I with our marriage, is because, you know, when you get to that financial aspect and the physical, and you're literally at that, you know, till death do us part, through richer or poorer and all of that, and you're literally living all of that one, there's a lot of stress and tension. So when we learned how to really communicate with each other, not just to, okay, let me tell you what I'm feeling, but to actually understand what the other person was communicating, even if they didn't say anything, really started making a difference with the transition in what we were doing. So that was the first thing when I started working with the recruits. I actually started a class where I brought the families in, whether they were fiancés or spouses, kids, or even parents. And that was the first thing I told them, you know, regardless of what you walk away from here, I want you to remember one thing: listen to understand, not just to reply. And it's funny because I talk to spouses even now, years later, that they're like, you know what, that's one thing I'll never forget. And because of that, it has helped our relationship grow stronger. And it's helped, you know, with now that we have kids and things like that. So when you apply that even into the business aspect of, you know, somebody might come in and say, oh, I want to lose weight.
Mm.
But in actuality, there might be something a whole lot deeper going on of, you know, when they look in the mirror. For instance, for me, it wasn't so much losing weight. It was, I got sick of looking in the mirror and all I saw was cancer. And that, you know, it didn't matter how I did my hair, my makeup, what I was wearing. All I saw every time I looked in the mirror was cancer, and how cancer was affecting me physically and emotionally. And I had to get past that point. So even though I said, okay, I want to work out, you know, I want to lose weight or whatnot, that was what I was ingrained to say, but I had to understand what was actually going on inside me. And so with that, I can empathize with other people, and I try to understand what is it really that's going on deep inside, especially if it's somebody that's been through some type of cancer journey or chronic illness. Every time they look in the mirror, that's what they're seeing, you know, or they're seeing the scars that maybe aren't physical on the outside. And so they have to get past that. But in their mind, they're thinking, I need to lose weight, when in actuality, it has nothing to do with that. It's how do they overcome the scars and get past that and realize that that's part of them. It helps make them stronger. So tying that in with, you know, the negotiating aspect of it is, some people don't talk. Some people don't know how to communicate. So, you know, having little basically action words of getting people to talk and kind of directing the conversation and stuff. But really a lot of it too ties in with the body language, you know, what they're not saying. And that was something, you know, being a detective and learning the different interview techniques, that you really pay attention to body language. You listen to the tone of voice and things like that, and you start really understanding. So I like going to networking events. I love people watching. So I love going to networking events. I love being at the airport and just sitting and watching people, how they interact with people. And, you know, you see somebody that's, you know, might seem real social over here, and then all of a sudden they get on the phone and they go over here and it's a completely different demeanor, or vice versa.
Mm.
And so I told somebody the other day I was going to put on my profile that I'm a professional eavesdropper. Because you learn so much about people when they don't realize that you're actually watching, not necessarily listening to what they're saying word wise, but when you're watching their body language and how they react and how they act. And that's how you really, to me, start getting to know somebody, is their body language and what they're showcasing. So that's more of what I do now. So, you know, I may not be one of those of, oh, let's grow, 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 grow. I'm more of the, let me see what I'm working with here. Especially with their energy, especially with you guys doing the Tai Chi and stuff. I'm sure that's something that you can really focus on, is somebody's energy. And a lot of times their energy speaks before they ever do. And if you're in tune to that and paying attention to that, then you decide, am I going to go this way, or am I not going to go this way? Because some people will just come and suck the energy out of you. So those are, I guess, some of the different things that I've learned and put into practice, and it's all tied together.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Okay, so you're also a deputy, so you were on patrol a lot, I imagine. So do you have any tips for how to be aware of your surroundings and how to listen and really see things without, staring at them necessarily?
um, we were talking about this the other day. We're actually up in Alaska. My son is stationed up here, and we were talking about up here in Anchorage, there's a lot of people that really just don't pay attention to their surroundings. And so many people, I'm not sure if it's just they're completely clueless or they think it's not going to happen to me. But there's so many people, when you watch them, they are like in this bubble and they think like their head is inside their phone and that is their bubble, and they're not paying attention to what's going on around them. And so you see people getting assaulted and mugged and different bad things happening to them, but um really, the best way to say to be aware of your surroundings is put your phone down. And really, when you go to a place, look around you. What is around you? Where are you parking? Are you parking someplace that somebody can jump out from behind a bush, or is it a really dark area? Maybe there's a different spot you could park that's a little bit more lit.
Yeah.
What are you carrying in your hands? Do you have 500 things in your hands, or do you have, like me, everything is on my left arm, but my right hand is still open?
Mhm.
So, looking at that, but then also, if you are carrying a lot of things, do you have a book bag? Is it something that you can be more hands free? So, just taking yourself out of that vulnerable situation. And of course, knowing some basic, self defense moves. If somebody comes up and puts their hand over your mouth, of course you're not going to be able to scream. You're not going to be able to grab your rape whistle or, whatever you have. But, your feet are free. So do something with your feet, kick them in the knee, step on their instep, use your head and, go backwards, hit them in the nose. Do something that you can gain a little bit of separation from them so that you can do the yell and things like that. But again, be aware of your surroundings in the first place. And, the one thing I tell people all the time is until you learn to really gush or trust your gut and your intuition, you're never really going to be able to rely on it and realize, hey, when the hairs on the back of your neck start standing up, you should pay attention to that. You should really be hyper aware at that point of, okay, what is happening? What is going on? And, and I tell people, I'm like, if you feel like somebody's watching you, then there may be a chance somebody's watching you. You just aren't able to see them. You just never know what's going on around you. So just be aware of that. Lock your doors. When you get in your car, lock your doors. When you get home, instead of just walking in and thinking, oh, okay, I'm at home, I'm in my safe place, take that moment to be like, hey, is there something out of place here? Or was there a vehicle out there? And just notice, and be aware of when you leave the house, what is around you. Is there a vehicle following you? Change up your patterns. That's the one thing that, living in a rural area, there's only so many ways to get to my house,
Yeah.
but I don't go the same way all the time and I don't have the same habits. So, that's the thing I tell people is also, if you go from here to here to here and somebody can see your patterns, then, stop doing that. But also, don't believe everything you hear on the internet. If somebody tells you, oh, I'm this person, blah, 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 and let's go meet, I would definitely double check that.
Yeah. Keep the public space before we go to that private space.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Dane, do you have any questions you want to follow up in?
Yeah, I'm curious, Suzy, what's the name of your health and wellness business?
So my company specifically is called FitFlex. And then through that, I'm also an independent affiliate with Success by Health, which is where we carry our nutraceuticals and all of that.
Oh, fit by health.
And FitFlex, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what exactly is it that you do with people? Because you mentioned you work one-on-one, you provide hope. If somebody comes to you, what exactly is it they're looking for, and what exactly is it you do for them?
So sometimes we have some that come to us that, like, okay, for instance, my stepmom, she eats very little during the day, and she can't figure out why she can't lose weight and why she doesn't have energy and things like that. And so when I sat down and explained to her, she's not putting enough nutrients in her body throughout the day to give her that sustaining energy. And basically, her body thinks that it's starving. So it's going to keep hanging on to all of that. That regardless of how much she works out and whatnot, anything she does eat, her body's going to want to store. So my husband is a certified tactical strength and conditioning coach, and then through that he also can help set up meal plans. And whether somebody's wanting to focus on their macros, or they have to have a certain dietary restriction and stuff, then he can help set them up with like a meal plan, how many calories they should be eating throughout the day, and then break it down through the macros as needed. So for instance, with her, we figured out that she had issues going on with her liver and things, but she was active. And then, as the day went on, she got to the point where she just felt like she didn't have any energy. She was wanting to take a nap. And that was when we were realizing, well, you were eating half a bowl of Cheerios and
Mhm.
then thinking you were going to be able to get by on that until you took a snack. And she was also eating a lot of high sugary snacks throughout the day. Just be like, okay, let me grab this. And then she was getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and going to have, like, a little Debbie snack or something. I'm like, oh my gosh. So we sat down and we worked with her on, when she should be eating, what she should be eating, and basically spelled it out of, have, a bowl of oatmeal, add this into it, this at such and such time, and then at this time eat XYZ. And we were able to spell that out specifically, and then how she can incorporate other things into it, not just walking, but walking with some weights, or doing some air squats and things like that to help with the strength training aspect of it, which would also help benefit her to prevent osteoarthritis and osteoporosis down the road. So it was just more specific what she was looking for, not just, okay, take this pill and see if it helps you. It was more of kind of combining everything together. But like I said, really looking at what is really going on, the root cause, and then figuring it out from there. And so now she's sleeping better. She has more energy. She's starting to notice, some of that weight that's coming off. And, but the biggest thing is the energy factor. And I told her, I said, you're not going to be able to go from eating 100 calories a day to 1,500 calories a day in one day. You're going to have to build up to it. But as long as you build up to it, then your body's going to get to the point of, okay, now I have food coming in.
Yeah.
But so many people want to go on these, extremely crazy restrictive diets of, okay, I can only eat so many calories, or I can only, eat XYZ. But then they want to go out and run, a marathon. Well, you need to have something to help you with that endurance aspect of it. So just figuring out where they're at and what their goals are down the road, and then continue to set the plan, and then continue reevaluating the plan as we go on.
So it has to do with looking at looking at where somebody is right now, what's going on in terms of their health, their wellness, their fitness, their energy, their vitality, looking at whatever challenges or issues they may be having, and the lifestyle factors that may be contributing to those, and then basically designing a plan, an inclusive plan, including fitness, nutrition, exercise, and helping them design that plan, and then helping them follow along with it, stick to it, adjust it as necessary, um, in order to address whatever their specific challenges are.
Yes.
And how is this different? You mentioned working with people who are looking to go into a career in the military or law enforcement or firefighting. Um, these one thing I imagine is generally that you're dealing with younger people than if they're looking to enter one of these careers. But how would this be different or specialized for someone in that situation? In other words, what are the specific kind of goals and challenges and issues that those people have that you help them with?
So it's funny that you said a lot of the people we work with would be younger. When actuality, I was 33 when I went through the police academy. My husband turned 35 3 days after he graduated basic training
Oh,
from the military.
He got in
So
just in the nick of time, huh?
yes. um, so we find that there's a lot of people out there that, maybe they got married or had kids when they were younger and kind of went one way. But then as they get older, they realize, you know what, I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to do this. But they have no idea where to start other than, okay, let me go talk to a recruiter. But even in that aspect, they can go talk to a recruiter and the recruiter can say, okay, you need to lose weight, you need to work out. But they don't actually help them with that. And so that's kind of where we come in with the, okay, you know what, let's focus on these specific exercises because you don't need to go to the gym. You don't need this whole rigorous program. There's some basic things that you need to be able to focus on. And, and then with that, what are you eating? How are you eating? Are you hydrating enough? What are your habits? Are you only sleeping 4 hours a night? Are you working out really hard for a couple of hours and then you sit on the couch for, the other 20 hours of the day that you're not awake? So kind of figuring out where they are there and giving them that baseline and helping them realize that you can go in and lift all the weight you want in the gym and be super strong. But if you can't do push ups, and the only way you get good at doing push ups is by doing push ups. But so many people don't know how to do a correct push up,
mm,
or, they do a sit up and they're tweaking their neck and everything else. It's like, okay, let's focus on your core for real. So giving them different things like that. But even with running, so many people think, okay, in order to run, I just go out and run. And so we can help them with the form and with their breathing and, start out slow and then start incorporating, maybe at first it's a walk run, you walk and then you do some sprints and then you walk again and do some sprints. And then you start working your way up to a slower run and some sprints in between. And, basically helping them with that transition point of how do you really go from being that couch potato or whatever you are and transitioning into this here where you are going to be basically doing physical stuff, but what are the things that you can do functionally that you're doing every day? So, for instance, if you're at home with a newborn baby, and this is the one thing I get from a lot of moms that I don't have time to go to the gym, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this, but they want to get stronger. And I'm like, you know what? If you're putting groceries away, use your baby, hold your baby and do some squats with the baby or, put the baby up over your head. There's so many basic things that they can do. They just don't know how to do it. And the one thing I encounter all the time is women are like, well, I don't want to do weights. I'm going to get big. I'm like, no, you're not. You
yeah.
have to lift big weights to get big. So there's a lot of stereotypes out there. There's a lot of different things out there. And there's a lot of people that have never, ever done sports. And all of a sudden, they play Call of Duty or Fortnite and like, oh, I want to go in the army or I want to go in the Marines. And it's like, okay, that's a huge transition factor there. So, helping with that. But then also there's, sometimes that we've had people that they need to get used to, somebody yelling at them kind of being in their head while they're working out and getting them used to that of get down and do 10 push-ups, okay, get up and go run down here and having that so they get used to the basically the noise, because that's what they're going to have to get used to. And a lot of people, if they're in the gym, all they have on is their headphones, so they don't have that noise. And it's the little things like that that really do make or break a person mentally when they're in basic training, the police academy, and things like that. So, when I went through the police academy, I had a guy that literally he quit the first day. And I'm like, what? What happened? So, it doesn't matter if you're younger or if you're older, you might just have different things to overcome. And, like I say, when I share the story about my husband being 34, going through basic training and basically, outrunning most of the recruits and stuff, and that they looked at him like, oh, wow, if he can do this, I can do this. And then when I was 33 going through the police academy and all these 21-year-olds, and it's like, oh, I'm going to, go out and do this. And I was running circles around them. They're like, oh, wait a minute, what is going on?
Yeah.
But, I tell people all the time that your mental strength is going to outlast your physical strength any day. It's either going to help you persevere and overcome, or it's going to be the thing that makes you fall short of where you want to reach. So helping people with their mental, realizing that you can do it, and, go talk to yourself in the mirror, tell yourself these things. But, how are you starting your day? What are you waking up with? Are you waking up and instantly going and checking Facebook and going into that drama aspect? Or are you waking up and you're focusing on, these are my goals, this is my why, this is where I want to be, and so on. And so tying all of that in together is really a lot of what we do.
So it sounds like you're saying that there's people make career transitions throughout their life at all ages, and there are a lot of people who are looking to transition into one of these kinds of careers that who may not have any kind of physical background at all. They, in terms of sports or work, they just may not be used to being physically active, and they decide they want to do one of these things. So it's a matter of teaching them how to be a fit, healthy, active person, teaching them how to develop the lifestyle habits that are that are going to allow them to enjoy that level of fitness and vitality, as well as developing the mindset and the psychological strength to put themselves through a challenge.
Exactly.
That's great. Yeah, you said a lot there, and I really want to mention. I love what you said about waking up in Facebook and like, oh God, don't use your phone right away. Stretch, do some breathing, maybe get a little drink of water, and then figure out your most important tasks of the day. That's awesome. And then my running definitely improved when I finally got a coach who was like a 50-mile, 100-mile runner. And she was just like, it's all about your pace. It's all about your breathing, keeping your shoulders relaxed. You got to have your nice gait. That kind of stuff was huge improvements. So
yeah.
And my stepbrother, actually, he went through the whole SEAL stuff when he was older. I think he was 29. Everyone called him the old man. And but he just said, his mental strength. He saw so many people ding the bell and drop their helmet, and he would just every time he had to make one of those records, those times, those minimum requirements, he said, you just do it, and you don't care about the breath, you don't care about anything, you just finish. And that's the mental strength that you're talking about. It's like, you don't care. It's just, I have to do this or everything is gone. I fail everything if I don't get through this.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Good advice for everyone right there. Okay. Well, it's about a good time to take a break and get my day started. So thanks so much for joining us, Suzy. It's great chatting.
Thank you guys for having me
back. So yeah, more focused chat would be good, because there was so much experience that you can share. So thanks very much for coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely been a pleasure, and it's a great time to wrap up. But before we do, can you? I am curious for, especially, what you said, Andrew. Like, if you're really serious about this stuff, having a coach makes a huge difference. And and there's a psychological effect, the Dunning-Kruger effect, that I think applies to this. It's the sort of thing that the more somebody needs something like coaching, the less they think they do, the less they are inclined to seek it out. And so I just want to say that really it doesn't matter how much you think you already know or how good you think you already are. If you truly are a beginner, then obviously working with an expert is going to benefit you. And if you don't consider yourself a beginner, the people who are the people who are most serious, who have the most ambition and intend to go the furthest, and are the ones who seek out this sort of thing and are the kind of people who are used to working with coaches because they recognize the benefit. So I just like to say that wherever you are in your journey, there's definitely benefit to working with an expert, to getting help, and making whatever you think you've got even that much better. So I want to make sure that actually I wanted to know, do you just work, do people have to come to you in person, or do you work online? Is it in location independent?
No, I work online too. So, with social media, with Zoom and, all the different aspects, we can do accountability things, check ins,
Mhm.
um, yeah, even phone calls. For instance, when I did my very first half marathon, it was actually while my husband was in AIT after basic training. He knew I had been training for it. And it was one of those things. I'm like, I hate that you're not going to be there at the finish line for this, huge thing. And so I called him. I had done my 13 miles and I had that point one to go. And so I called him and had him on FaceTime. So as I crossed the finish line, he was there with me. So knowing that I was able to do that, and we were thousands of miles apart, that is something that we can offer other people too, is that basically that lifeline and that continuous encouragement and things like that, especially as they first get going and starting to develop those habits, the check-ins and things like that. And so yeah, it's offered basically wherever they are, and we help them start wherever they're at. If it's first the mental hurdle of getting over it, then that's where we start at.
Wonderful.
And where do people find you to work with you online? What's the best way for
Um,
people to find out about what you do?
So I have a website. It's fitflexaz.com. And so it's fitflexaz.com. So that's our website. It has all of our contact information in there, or they can email me at fitflexaz@gmail.com. Or they can find
Okay.
me on Facebook at Suzy Q Monroe, or I have a Facebook page, FitFlex.
Yeah, it makes
Okay. Yeah.
cool.
That's awesome. And in fact, if you could put a comment on this video with your that link to your website or your Facebook page, people will be able to find it. They'll be able to find you on Facebook. So that's a nice convenient thing. Are you able to do that?
Of
Is
course.
that the little orange thing down here in the corner?
No, it will be, you'll leave a comment on this video, which is posted on Facebook, and
Okay.
I'll send the video to you so you'll be able to do that.
Okay. I can do that.
Great,
Great.
that'll be awesome.
Beautiful.
And then I'll share it onto my FitFlex page too, so people can also tune into your show.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
perfect.
you so much. Okay. Yeah. Thanks again, Suzy. It was great chatting with you, and I'd love to have you on again and hear more about all of your experience. It's great. Great.
Absolutely. I would love to be on. It's always fun to not just share my story, but share other people's stories. And, and then you never know who you're inspiring just by one of the aspects. And when I stop, somebody told me yesterday, they said, "Well, you have a really impressive background." And I'm like, "Really?" And I said, "I don't really think about my background. It's part of who I am." I said, "I still look at myself as the little country girl that grew up on the farm."
Yeah. Persevering through 2 bouts of cancer and all of your experiences that's mental toughness that a lot of people just never develop because they never get challenged. So,
Yep.
yeah, you should share your story as often as possible because it's inspiring. So, thanks very much, Suzy. We're gonna get out of here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks for coming on our web show, Suzy. We'll look forward to seeing you again.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
Prosper.
Bye.